Looking for insight, inspiration, and community? Tune in to Behind the Camouflage, the podcast made for Marine Corps spouses by Marine Corps spouses. We cover everything from navigating military life to finding joy in the journey. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts and stay connected with those who understand.
Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners. Welcome to episode 202. This week, we welcome Ryan Pavel to the show. Ryan is the CEO of the Warrior Scholar Project and the inaugural winner of the Marine Corps University Foundation's General Alfred M. Gray National Award for Service and Education. We caught Ryan while he was in the D.C. area, and he was kind enough to come and talk to us about transitioning from service, particularly into higher education. Ryan discusses the challenges veterans have moving into academic spaces, from expectations to enrollment to ways of being successful. Spoiler alert, oftentimes properly defining what success is will enable your ability to achieve it. Ryan and the Warrior Scholar Project help address these challenges and prepares veterans for success. Ryan's perspectives are invaluable and his energy is infectious. We had a lot of fun talking about this serious topic. This is episode 202. Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners. Thank you for joining us and your continued support. I'm Vic, and I'm here with Nancy.
Hey, Vic, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Yeah, so before we started recording, we were talking about sound levels. And what was it? So my oldest son turned 11 last week.
Nice.
So we give our kids this thing where we're like, you can either have a party or you can do a bunch of events. Mm-hmm. And our youngest was our test bed, and it was gangbusters. Like they did Chuck E. Cheese, they did laser tag, a bunch of other stuff, but we didn't have like a party. We still did the cake and ice cream stuff, but so they got to do. And so my oldest saw that and was like, I'm doing that too. So we had this whole thing. So we went to Top Golf because they have like a Sonic game you could play. Anyway, a really long way of explaining. So one of the things that my oldest chose was this thing called iFly. And it's the
skydiving thing?
Skydiving thing with the huge fan.
Yeah.
Just like, and so we were talking about sound levels and like people. So one of the guys still had his ear pro in, and he started talking about the previous class, and I'm like, oh, he's going to talk shit about the other people. We're all going to hear it. But he didn't. You
didn't get anything good?
But he was really loud in whatever he was saying.
Wow.
But nothing sticks out in my mind.
Do you need me to let you know when my birthday is, though, so I can have my special
You're also doing iFly?
I would never,
Chuck E. Cheese.
ever do iFly.
But you do Chuck E. Cheese, though.
Potentially.
But are you giving your kids a limit on how many series of events
they
can do?
So this is the evolution of it. So now we do. So now it's a 200 limit.
Okay.
And then they could pick whatever it is that they want to do.
That's smart.
So for Chuck E. Cheese, you can now the way they do it is you just go and you buy a time.
Okay.
And then you're in there for an hour or whatever. But they have all these games that collect the tokens on the cards, and so all of us use these two cards from our kids, and we're just ticket collecting.
Yeah, just going.
I just sit on this one game that I think has a glitch, is why I'm rocking at it, and I'm just churning tickets.
And I'm sure you got just a killer prize with all those tickets.
Something that's highly disposable, but looks cool in the box. Yeah. So.
Oh man.
But yeah, so that's been my past couple weeks, but it's been fun.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, Dodgers Padres too this week.
Oh.
So I didn't sleep much last night because fucking time zones. Time zones.
You have such an exciting life, Vic.
Is that exciting? Dodgers Padres
and Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese was cool. I will say Top Golf. They're not a sponsor or anything, but
But we would welcome their sponsorship.
man.
I'm sure someone from Top
for
Golf is
real,
listening right
for
now.
Real. I work for very cheap.
I was saying before, I got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they're 2 months apart. And so the 5-year-old's birthday, 2 months after the 7-year-old. So of course he wants to be just like his.
Okay,
He's
sure.
got to be just like
Sure.
And so both of them this year, it was simple because they both wanted to go and do just this gymnastics place where you can rent it out, and they have somebody that like very loosely supervises them.
Okay.
Right. You can just invite a bunch of people, and then you have pizza, right? And it's an easy, 2 hours in and out. Adults aren't supposed to go out there, right, to enjoy. But like I like look, if there's a gymnast with all these trampolines and foam pits,
totally.
I'm gonna jump in a little bit,
that's the
ostensibly
marine
with
in
the
you,
kids,
right?
right.
It's like an oak course,
But this
fun.
year's for the second birthday for the 5-year-old, I just started throwing all the kids in the foam pit, and that ended up being fun. And at one point, I had probably a dozen of them that were convinced that to try and all glom on me, and get me in the foam pit.
Yeah.
And it got a little dicey for a minute, right? I can handle probably I think 10 5-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as you hit a dozen, right, then they took me.
That's too
right?
many.
They got me. Yeah,
Too many.
They got me in the pit.
Yeah, it's like with the whole thing, like the ants.
Right.
Like they all.
Yeah, right.
Like
How
one
many?
ant is
Right,
nothing.
yeah, right.
But you get an entire
10,000.
colony.
Vivid
then you're in
image.
trouble.
For.
Yeah.
You're done for.
Yeah, good.
Very vivid image.
Yeah. Well.
And on that note,
Yeah, on that note. So, the third voice you've been listening to is our esteemed guest today. We're so happy to have him in town because he resides in Chicago. We caught him while he's here in the D.C. area, and he was brave and courageous and bold enough to make his way down I-95. Or I guess you were only 10 minutes out.
That's
but
right.
You're gonna fight.
I'm gonna fight the other way.
It's gonna learn
Yeah,
you something.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
our guest today is Ryan Pavel.
There you go.
And what is it? What was it? Go to hell.
Pavel, go to hell.
Pavel, go
Yeah.
to hell.
I love that
Which I'm
mnemonic.
sure you heard plenty
It sticks.
in your time.
It sticks. Exactly. It's the
Yeah.
thing. It's just it's like some people say like Pavel, like Patel, right? Like that works. But Pavel, go to hell. People remember.
No, that's
Somebody actually about 6 months ago, I said it, and they said, you could flip that. It could be Pavel, give him hell. I was like, that's
that
kind of
is
good too.
good.
That
Yeah.
works too.
That's a
But
t-shirt.
I like the more self-deprecating side, right? Go to hell, right? It works. Nobody ever forgets it.
Well, we're not going to do. At least we won't deprecate. Is that right? Because you get self-deprecating.
Please, that
So,
would be an interesting podcast vibe.
We're not
if
going to
that's-
deprecate
yeah.
today of you because you are the winner of the.
So I did warn you that this
Yeah.
was a very
I'm
organic
here
type
for
of
it.
Yeah, I
conversation.
like it. And we are clearly big brains in this room.
Yeah.
Their AU is revoking my MFA as we speak. But you are the winner of the Marine Corps University Foundation's General Gray National Award for Service and Education.
So they tell me.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And you came onto our radar because friends of the show you were in competition with, and that's First Sergeant Chase McGordy Hunter and Lieutenant Colonel Tom Schumann. And so with a heavy heart, we welcome you.
Okay. Hey, again. Yeah,
Wow.
this is the
Oh, my
vibe that I'm looking
goodness.
for. Let's keep it going.
You bested some real gangsters. So
All right.
yeah, I mean,
all right. I better do something.
so
good here.
when was it that you came to even find out? Well, I guess first off, what were you nominated for? What is your service and education accoutrement that got you onto the Marine Corps University Foundation's radar?
Yeah, it's a good question. I still don't know who nominated me, so that also
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? That I have no idea where this came from.
Some guy named Payan Ravel.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, yeah. I've heard about this guy. Yeah. No, but I got a call in February letting me know that I was nominated for this inaugural award, and they were putting some of the finalists on notice because they wanted to be able to book for their annual gala, just so folks know, okay, block these dates if you're able to make it. And he didn't tell me how many finalists, and so. Totally out of the blue, to the point that I thought that initially that it was just a spam call, so I didn't return his call right away.
Yeah.
He had to call a
I
couple
don't know
times.
this number.
It's just strange. Yeah, you've been
Yeah.
nominated for this thing, right? Yeah, block the dates. Sure, okay.
He
All right.
answers the phone.
All right, Steve.
Hello,
Yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's just his voice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Congratulations. yeah, and then about a week later, they called and said that I had won this. And, you know, it's like, okay, well, great, awesome, right? Can you tell me more information? So they just told me about the event and that I should plan to come out for the gala, and that General Kelly was going to be the one to, you know, present that along with the CEO of Marine Corps University Foundation, and that it was in honor of General Gray. And so that, you know, really took me by surprise. What are my qualifications, such as they exist, right? I mean, that's a good question, right? I mean, I describe myself as a very average, lackluster Marine. I did 5 years in the Marine Corps, 2005 to 2010. The Marine Corps changed me in many, many ways. Some ways for the better, in some ways I'm genuinely not so sure.
Still working through it.
Yeah, still working through it. But, you know, I really, I needed that time in my life. And so the Marine Corps did shape me a lot. When I got out in 2010, wanted nothing to do with the military, wanted nothing to do with veteran affairs. And so, you know, the irony is that now all day, every day, all I do is work with veterans and service members who are in the transition to higher education, right?
Yeah.
So I found my path there by really connecting with the veteran community. Long story medium here is that I went to University of Michigan after I got out, and really connected with my fellow, there you go Blue, really bonded with my fellow student veterans. So I found my way into that work, and then went to law school, and along the way I heard about this thing called Warrior Scholar Project, which is now the nonprofit that I have the privilege of serving as the CEO of. And it's this really small, scrappy startup in 2012 at Yale. I found out about it the next year. I got an invitation to come out and check it out. And I just saw this group of, you know, tatted up enlisted veterans going toe-to-toe with a Yale faculty member on Tocqueville's equality of conditions argument, right? And it was just like, what universe? What is this bizarre experiment? And so all of these things sort of coalesced for me of, okay, I have this military experience, had, you know, strong feelings about military service when I got out, didn't want to have anything to do with it, but I really bonded with fellow student veterans. And then there's this role, there's something that's happening here with veterans coming to an elite institution, veterans who are not students there, just to see what that's like. And for no credit, right, for no grades, they're reading Tocqueville and they're discussing it, right? So I was just really intrigued. Mm-hmm. And so I said yes to helping expand that. And that was in 2014. Then we ran our first branch of that boot camp at my alma mater at Michigan. And since then, it's just been every year, you know, the organization has grown, and our network right now is working with about 20 colleges and universities throughout the country and helping enlisted veterans really excel in higher education. So I guess that's my qualifications, such as they exist, right? Is the sense of, you know, I have this, my own military service and really being shaped by higher education, and now having this fierce commitment to helping more enlisted veterans find that sort of path. And then I've learned over time as I've done this work that really education is not just it's not just for the degree, right? That this is actually one of the big issues. You know, University of Phoenix collecting $1.6 billion, you know, in higher education benefits, right, over the course of a few years, right? And 7 of the top 10 recipients of GI Bill dollars being for-profit institutions, right? So how do we start to move against that? It's really not just about the degree, but it's about leveraging higher education towards deeper civic engagement and civic service.
Yeah. I love that.
So I've been really outspoken about it, and so I guess that caught the attention of somebody nominated. And here we are.
Ryan Pavel, sure. So, and this is, I think this is a really great thing. There's a couple of sort of really interesting nuggets with what you're. So just so that everyone knows, and we'll put all of the links in the show notes because I think this is definitely something that needs to get out. Is Warrior Scholar Project? Is it .org?
Yeah, warrior-scholar.org.
Yeah. Okay. And you have, is it 11 schools that are?
So right now, this summer, we have 19 college and university partners. And then we also work with a series of community colleges and those things, but our core academic bootcamp partners are these 19 institutions throughout the country.
And your focus is almost exclusively on the enlisted.
Entirely.
Yeah, entirely.
Officers, they've got plenty of other.
Look, zeros,
when you resign your commission, you don't know what to do. You go get an MBA. Yeah, right? It's fine. Yeah. I'm happy for you, right? Yeah. Like I'm glad that support network exists.
I stole my kid's GI Bill.
Do you feel attacked right now?
No, he's really hitting.
You feel seen.
He's firing on the black.
I found the nerve.
Totally firing on the black. No, it's like
he's shifting in his chair, listeners. He's a
good.
little uncomfortable.
A more aggressive stance here.
You know, I was such a wonderful major that the Marine Corps could not afford to promote me, and so as I was leaving and being forced to grow up, I'm like, job or GI Bill. Yeah, no. So
Yeah. But you did MFA, you said. So AU, so American?
I did. I went to America, yeah.
Okay.
But interestingly, as you're sort of mentioning, so in this very similar way, I thought I was going to be making this massive change and, gone were the days of being around a bunch of jarheads. And of course, first day on orientation, there's another Marine.
Yeah.
He's an intel officer. And then it was like, at the end of the day, I'm like, are we best friends?
Right. We're in this together, right? Come on. Yeah, you and me, man.
And it just stuck. And so, there is something about sort of that magnetism. And I say this more for our listeners who are considering transition or hope. I pray that you aren't, but if you are struggling with that transition, definitely find that community. Like even if it's a VFW or American Legion post or something, you will not really fully understand what it is that you're missing or that hole that you have until you are starting to fill it with that community of veterans. Yeah.
And we suck at building community at that transition point.
Yeah.
We have failed at a systemic, epic, deeply troubling level, right? Yeah. So one of the ways that I describe that is when I was 17, I got rejected from University of Illinois, right? So I grew up outside Chicago, the flagship state school that everybody wanted to go to, right? Said all my friends, right? Yeah, you come in, Ryan. No, right? You don't get to come in, right? And they were right? Like I was a very apathetic high schooler, right? And so all these, my best extracurricular was getting last in a lot of cross country races, right? Like that's just legitimate. Like I was just very, I was a very privileged
But did you improve
kid
your time?
I did not.
Oh, okay. I'm right.
I got slower. Yeah, it was weird. but the point, for the purposes of what I'm saying here on the community side is I had this, tight-knit group of people that I was part of the reason I was able to be an apathetic high school is I just like everything was kind of taken care of, right? Like I just had a good group of people, didn't want for anything. Very comfortable. And that rejection really forced me to think about, okay, well, what do I want to do, right? I did get accepted to some other, like a small liberal arts school, which could have been a good fit, but it's like, I need to do something different, right? I need to wake up. I got rejected in 2004, and so then Staff Sergeant Salas was calling right from the Marine Corps recruiter, right? And so
and where
talked
is
to him.
And what part of the country?
Chicago,
Chicago,
northwest suburbs, yeah.
Okay.
And so so I enlisted, right? And I was very sure, right? I'm an only child, and so my parents, I appreciated the fact that they said, if you still feel this strongly a month later, right, then we'll sign, right? And so they signed the waiver for me to be able to go. But as soon as I go, right, you step on the yellow footprints, right? You are part of a community, right? Like your individual identity. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit about you as the individual.
Yeah, and I mean, like, sans melatonin, you're all going to look the same here in about 30 seconds.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so what matters, right? Like, why do you drill? Well, it's because the point of that is to be able to work as a unit, right? That you should, no aspect of your movement, zero aspect of you as an individual should stand out, right? It should be that sort of optical illusion where it's this unit that's moving together. And I think that's fascinating, right? Like, that way that you force that community building really works, right? And Marines in particular, right? Like we take it to just like a stupid level, right? Of like this pride, right? And, and I'm fiercely proud of having been a Marine, despite this cognitive distance that I have about service. But that community is there, right? It doesn't matter what you do while you're in, you feel that community. You're working with a group of people to accomplish a mission, right? That aspect just gets really deeply infused. And then you go on the other side. And then you're just an individual, right? It's like you have this community, and then suddenly, for me, I'm one of 28,000 undergrads on the Michigan campus. Like, who the hell are my people?
Well, and everything around you is trying to foster the individualism, right?
Totally
trying to pull you from.
I think that's right. And so, I mean, to your point, right? Whether it's the Legion, whether it's the VFW, right? If it's student vet clubs, whatever the thing is, right? You have like Team Red, White, and Blue does a good job of this. Where over time, I know Mike Irwin, their founder, quite well, and it's been really interesting watching Team Red, White, and Blue as this national nonprofit change and sort of morph because it's physical fitness, but it's really about community building. It's this idea of just like, well, what brings a lot of veterans together, right? Like some aspect of physical fitness. So let's do that in a way which is really motivating for people, and to just have these chapters throughout the country, because you need to just have that fellow bond with people.
Yeah.
And I think that this is, I have infinite criticisms for the transition assistance program. And I think that it's sort of structurally doomed to fail until there's a sort of a complete rework of it. But one of the big things, again, is that it sort of misses the point of what do you actually need to succeed in transition. It's not just about the resume, right? It's actually about like how do you build that community on the other end so that you don't have this sort of whiplash moment of just I go from this community no matter what I thought about military service to just that individuality. So I completely agree, right? That in terms of the necessity to build community, the biggest through line that I've seen in all of my work in the transition space since 2010 is the people that have a community that they can not only extract value from, but also give value to. Part of community is a two-way street. If somebody has that, they are far more likely to succeed in the transition. If they don't have that, it's possible, but man, is it hard.
Yeah. And I think, too, like being in uniform, the sense of purpose is, especially in the Marine Corps, you're just browbeat with it.
Totally.
You wake up in the morning for 05:30 PT formation, and your sense of purpose is right there. Yeah.
It's there. You can't ignore it. Right.
Amongst the various trumpeting bodily noises that are going on as everyone's bodies are waking up.
Right.
And then you go to the chow hall, right? And then you're together.
You're a unit. You're forming up, right? You're bitching together, right? You're moaning, right? All of these things, right? Like, oh my God, it's 15 minutes prior to 15 minutes prior to, like every aspect of that, but you're doing that as a group, right? That purpose, you don't have time to really question your purpose, right? It's just, it's there. You have to do the thing. It's right in front of you, and you're doing it with people to your left and your right.
And it's constantly being reinforced that this little thing that you're doing has a massive role to play.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden you get a DD-214 and there's none of that.
Nothing.
How long did it take you to realize that you were missing that?
Oh man. It's interesting sort of in hindsight trying to think through it. So I knew there was no reenlistment bonus that they could throw my way that was going to keep me in, right? So I deployed a couple times, 2008 to 2009, and then 2009 to 10 to Iraq, and worked as an Arabic translator when I was in. And at that point, it was tax-free reenlistment bonuses, right?
Sure.
So it's just like, but, and so this is tempting for a lot of people, but I knew that even though I didn't know what my next type of community would look like, that I needed to get out, right? Again, like I'm fiercely proud of having served. I'm fiercely proud of having served as an enlisted Marine. And I still knew very clearly that it was time for me to get out. And so I knew that the next step for me was going to be higher education, but that was sort of this amorphous, like, now I should pursue college, right? So 2/3 of enlisted veterans are first-generation college students. So have family members that have not served or that have not, don't have some type of degree. I come from a family where I'm not a first-generation college student. My father immigrated, escaped communist Romania, came here in his 30s, built a medical practice, right? Like an incredibly hardworking man, but a physician. My mother has her master's in counseling, right? And just somebody who's incredibly adept and, well educated. So for me, college was like a thing that I should do, which is why partly like apathetic high school Ryan, right? That kind of just like phoned it in and figured out I could get a 3.0 without doing anything, right? Like that's why U of I rejected me, right? Rightly so, right? Now they're a partner of Warrior Scholar Project. And I love the fact that now I can be like, all right, yes, it all worked out. This was my plan all along. Right. But sincerely, I needed that rejection. But I knew that higher education at that point for me, like, okay, I did the thing that I needed to do with the Marine Corps, right? I served something bigger than myself. I grew up a lot. I met this incredibly rich, richly diverse group of people, was around people that were much smarter than me. I was an average translator. Like I could do my job, right? But there were some of the people that I was with that were just like incredibly good in the signals intelligence field. I learned a ton. So I applied to University of Michigan because I Googled veterans, college, and Arabic. That was literally my search criteria. Now as the CEO of Warrior Scholar Project, I advise people a more sophisticated search criteria than that, right? But I didn't really know what else to do, right? And so Michigan has purportedly had a strong veteran presence. They have a strong Arabic program because there's Dearborn, Michigan is so close. So there's a lot of Arab Americans there. I said, fine, right? I'll apply. That was my top choice. I applied to Georgetown. Georgetown said no, right? They're right to, GW said no, right? Michigan rejected me, but they were my first rejection. And so at that point, I'm 22 years old. This is 2010. In contrast to 17-year-old Ryan, I knew that I wanted it at that point. And so I called the admissions office. So I say at bottom, small print, if you have any questions, right, call here. I don't think anybody ever calls it. Right? I just called and said okay.
Oh my God, the phone's ringing.
Yeah, right. But I called, right, and it's just like, hey, I really wanted to go here. Is there any feedback you can provide on my application so that when I reapply, right, I'll be a better applicant. And that,
Smart call.
Yeah, it resonated with them, right? And so they connected me to somebody who had actually reviewed my application. She said, look, yeah, you got military service, all of these things, but you still haven't shown you can be a good student, right? Michigan's a tough school, right? So you gotta be able to show that you can actually, study. I think it's fair, right? I think that was a fair point. And so I enrolled in on-base community college, right? I had 3 months left on my contract, and my command had no idea what to do with me in 2010, right? They were too lazy to set up a proper skiff, right? And so because we were also, our unit was deploying a lot. There was the waiver for the 2-to-1 dwell time, right? So it was 7 months on, 5 months off. That was basically the cycle, right, for us. And so, they just said, sure, go enroll in community college. And so I took whatever classes they had. And I called back the admissions person and said, all right, I'm enrolled in on-base community college. And Michigan conditionally admitted me. So conditional, that same cycle that they had rejected me, they gave me a conditional acceptance where conditional on me getting A's in those 2 courses that I enrolled in, that I would be admitted to that cycle. So that was an incentive for me to do well, right? To actually focus and to, so, I can get A's in, a couple community college classes if I actually really, want to, it turns out. And so, again, the long story medium on this is throughout this process, I didn't know what I wanted my identity to be, but I knew that some aspect of going into higher education was going to be this important piece for me to process everything that I had just done and been a part of in the military. And because I am not from a first generation college, I'm not a first generation college student, I had that familial guidance as well for them to be able to say like, hey, here's how higher education helped shape us, right? So again, this is the challenge that most enlisted veterans have, is if they are first gen and they're also dealing with being a non-traditional student, enlisted veterans at that stage of transition really do have a lot stacked against them,
I can
which
imagine.
is where the for-profit industry, right, swoops in, right, and is able to really, like, predatory schools and all of these things. So I didn't want to have anything to do with the military, but I wanted a degree, and then it was the actual, this is, 10 minutes ago, you asked me a simple question. I'm giving you a 10-minute answer.
No, this is good.
But the actual answer is very early on. It was like, similar to you, right? I go through some sort of orientation, right? It's like, okay, yeah, it turns out I do actually have something in common with fellow veterans. There was this outward bound trip that they offered for incoming students. And so I got to just go and be in the mountains for a little bit with fellow student veterans who were coming in. We connected, right? And so I had this resistance to doing something in the veteran space, but that was the entry point, right? Of these 28,000 undergrads that I'm one of, right? Let me learn from some of these other veterans. And the important step for me is that I had some people that counseled me and guided me and said, don't just talk to veterans, right?
Yeah.
Don't, because that's the other mistake, right? That's the safe space for a lot of veterans. Ironically, even though a lot of people, sort of bemoan safe spaces, but the safe space for veterans is just being able to be in a room where you can, talk shit, right? You can use that gallows humor, right? You can do all of those things that we're so adept at, right? But you have to really be able to pierce outside of that.
Well, and isn't that what college is supposed to, part of the college experience, a really important part of the college experience, as I understood it, is being in a place where you're around people who have other ideas.
Yes.
And you're all supposed to be exchanging your ideas and debating your ideas. I'm older than you by quite a bit, but when I went to college, that was what I expected. I didn't expect to have a safe space of any sort. And I came that's not the right word, but I encountered people with all sorts of new, I was a very sheltered person. And so to experience all these different types of people was eye-opening. In some situations, it changed my mind, changed my perspective. Yes. In other cases, it just made my beliefs stronger. Yeah. But I thought that was the idea, to get uncomfortable, to meet new people, to learn new ideas.
Yeah. But I will say, though, on the other end of that is when you leave uniform service, and I'm sure it's got to. I know there's an organization, and I can't. I'm drawing a blank, but the abbreviation is MVP.
Merging vets and players.
Yes, merging vets and players.
Yeah.
And because the experience of that transition is so similar.
Yeah.
In that, all of a sudden you're a superstar athlete.
Right. And then
you blow out your knee, and no one gives a shit about you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think this resonates in a lot of these sort of tight knit communities.
Yeah.
In a way that you don't really even fully understand until you're out of it. But and so when you leave. And you're struggling that way, it is so easy once you see it and recognize it and get drawn into it because you're being challenged everywhere else already.
Totally.
So it is a balancing between finding that safe space. It's so cliche, but finding
your people. You find your people, your tribe.
Find your community, your folks, and then also wanting them to branch out because you've already done I have opposing views.
Absolutely. So,
right?
So you have, but also higher education should explode your perspectives, right? Like you should be pushed. So one of my favorite examples of this, there's a guy named Jimmy Hatch, retired Navy SEAL, sort of the quintessential thing when people hear SEAL, right? Like he actually, he did the thing, right?
Yeah.
And then he
not just the guy at the bar.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And so he just graduated from Yale as an undergrad, and he's a phenomenal writer, and so he's written some really good thought pieces on this. And so one of the things that he uses that we actually incorporated into, just as an aside, my director of education and I wrote a field guide. We call it the Warrior Scholars Field Guide, which is all about how to really succeed, how to kick ass in higher education, which is what we teach at our courses, right? And so we actually use this as our curriculum for how do you build perspective, how do you do the college search side, right? How do you take notes as an effective student, all these things. But one of the things that we quote in there is we have a session that I wrote on college discussion, class discussion. And Jimmy Hatch has this great thing where he writes about the reconceptualization of what it means to be a safe space, right? And that actually at Yale, there were these incredibly vulnerable conversations where people were just putting out these raw pieces of themselves and disagreeing, right? And like really being able, like not just veterans, but these people, right, that just are on opposite ends of the political spectrum or on total, a few different viewpoints on the same contentious issue. But they all felt comfortable sharing that because they knew that would be received in a way that people are actually going to respect that. Like to me, that should be what college is about, right?
Yeah,
like that ability. It's not just about the degree. Yes, there are some. I'm really active on the veteran subreddits on Reddit.
Yeah, so I was actually going to mention because you have 2-Bit Ride.
Oh, yeah. So I have my own. Yeah. So you did a little bit of research, a little bit of prep. You were down on yourself. Look at this.
Look, we'll edit that shit out because then there's going to be a standard of
everybody's going to expect.
Yeah. I don't like it.
I'm going to tell the world. I'm going to tell the world.
It's an act. He does prepare.
I am a non-prior enlisted retired major.
Oh,
I do not like expectations at all.
Prior enlisted,
I let people down.
Retired major. I like that as a moniker. No, but look. So one of the reasons that I'm active in these subreddits is because it's a really good finger on the pulse, this unfiltered view of how veterans are viewing higher education. And the conversation there is troubling, right? And so I try and interject there, and I have a non-anonymous Reddit account, right, which is tied to 2-Bit Rye, which is sort of something else that I write a lot in. That's my my social media, and I enjoy this area. I'm really interested in sort of holistic productivity, like what does it mean to do shit in the world without sacrificing your identity, right?
Yeah.
And so infusing all of this into these conversations of saying why, I ask this question all the time on the subreddit, just like, okay, when somebody's talking about what's the easiest path to a degree, it's like, okay,
pump your brakes.
Wait, right? Yes, there are some jobs that you just need a degree. That's true. That's absolutely true. There's also a lot of jobs where you don't need a degree, right? Like at Warrior Scholar Project, we are a college prep organization, and yet we tell our students at the end of every course, if at the end of this course you do not yet know why you want to go to college, don't go.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like don't do it until you can
an
actually
expensive,
seriously right. And it's expensive. This is another issue is people say, well, I have the GI Bill, I can get VRNE, right? I can get college paid for and graduate school paid for. The opportunity cost of your time is real. The only truly finite resource is time. Do you know how many weeks does the average human live? If you don't run calculations, just like give me like gut guess. What do you think?
600.
I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't do math.
Yeah, right. So this is a really important number. So the average human, right, 80 years is 4,000 weeks. Okay, we have 4,000 weeks on this earth. All right. Okay. Yeah. See, right.
Wow.
4,000 weeks, which is to say that if we aren't spending our time with intention, to include specifically in my industry, right, and the higher education space, I see this reaction, right? I wish that this was a visual podcast so we could see you reacting to it.
I should never play poker, by the way.
Yeah. But there's something which is very important around that number, because when people are saying, well, okay, I have benefits, I might as well go get a degree, right? No, fucking stop, right?
Yeah.
Think about the intention of how you want to do that. Your time matters, right?
Yeah.
And so if you don't, paraphrasing the Cheshire Cat, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, right? And so you have to be able to work backwards. And again, going back to this point of what does it look like for successful transition to happen? Community building is this non-negotiable thing for successful transition from all of my experience. But so too is understanding what your direction is, right? It's not just about the resume to get the next job. It's about, okay, 10 years from now, at this point of transition, the hell do I want to do with my life?
Right.
And is higher education an important piece of that? Maybe, maybe not. Is trade school the right thing for me, right? What do I actually need? And we do a horrible job systemically at actually encouraging people to ask those tougher identity-based questions, right? Who am I, right? Okay, I'm a veteran, right? What are the other aspects of your identity? What makes you who you are? Again, I know I'm kind of on a soapbox now, but one of my favorite questions, right, is what makes you you, right? So we ask that question. We write about this in the field guide, and we encourage our students to actually spend some time journaling about that question. Because from that, right, you could spend, you may have like I just ask you, like, what makes you, let's do this, right? Like, what makes you you?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
We don't have time for
No, we're doing this. We're doing this. You said this is casual, and you're next. You have a little bit more time to prep.
So what is it?
What makes you you?
Oh, my God. There's a lot, man.
Right, but what's top of mind?
Top of mind. Makes me like as Vic circa 2025.
Yeah.
Probably I would say family and religion. Those are the two things that like really
define
me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Give me some really high level answers. All right, I'll buy it. I'll take it.
No, you gotta bite that apple because that's the only one that's falling from the tree right now.
All right. What about you? What makes you you?
I went in a very different direction.
Good. Yeah.
Complete lack of spontaneity. I am super organized and I like to have everything kind of scheduled, know what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
I don't know what else makes me me. I like to have a plan, and I like that plan to come to fruition. And I like to make sure that every little thing that needs to happen for that plan to come to fruition is taken care of. I'm not leaving it to chance. I'm not letting someone else figure it out unless they have proven that they're going to be able to figure that out.
Yeah. But so this is actually a really interesting case study, right? Because the question is meant to be something which is so broad that it is actually really valuable. Whatever comes, like your answer completely valid, your answer completely valid, right? So if you think about religion as family, and family as like the things that are driving you, the orienting things, when you think about your identity, just sort of top of the dome, right? Like those are the things that resonate with you. That gives you some sort of structure, right? Now you may say, okay, what do I actually do with that? So some people can say, right, if family is the top priority for me, if that's how I really associate, well, then it can lead to some sort of tough questions of, am I spending enough time with my family? Are there things that I want to be doing?
Right.
Clearly,
do I want to pursue a job that's I'm going to be traveling?
Right, but clearly you're a really engaged father, right? Like you're going to Chuck E. Cheese, right? You're going skydiving, you're doing all these things.
Time.
But sincerely, right? And also with faith. So faith is one of the biggest things that is a community driver, right? So there's this whole, right, like as sort of the crisis of faith and religion in our country and the loss of community, right? Bowling Alone, Robert Putnam's is like one of the best community-based books right now. And this idea that we collectively as a nation have lost a lot of our sense of community. And one of the reasons for that is actually because of a declining amount of faith, because so many people derive value from faith, right? I was raised in a very faith-driven household. Now I no longer ascribe to that. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening. my mom and I have a very close relationship, and her brand of counseling is actually in spiritual direction. So she and I talk about this all the time, really, really actively. But because I don't have faith, for me, part of my identity can't be based in that area. So what do I do? How do I build community outside of it? And on yours, right, this idea of thinking about the organizational side, right, like the thing that's top of mind for you, right, is you need a plan, right?
Well, and full for context, so my children are all adults.
Yeah.
And so I know there's a time where my answer would have been more similar to Vic's
because circa 2025 for sure. Yeah.
My children are adults.
Right.
And, what they do regarding faith, I have come to terms with I have no control over that anymore.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so my priorities are what makes me is very different now than when
I got to imagine too, like even when you're talking
children at home.
Even when you're talking about organization and sort of that meticulous process, it was very different when you had the kids in the house.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
But I interrupted you. You were
well, no, but I love that, right? Because you're hitting on something really important, and this actually ties into the work that I do, and what I think is part of the critical nature of what successful transition looks like is if you are at some point of transition in life, whether it's into the military, coming out of the military, at any other point, whether you served or otherwise, at any point of transition, if you don't have the space, if you're not deliberately leaning into the space to ask and answer that question honestly, the likelihood of the next steps for you being the thing that actually feeds your identity, right, and that allows you to be able to grow into the person that you want to grow, it's diminishing, right? So because the answer changes. My answer to what makes me at 17, right, was well, look, I was really good at Halo 2. I was a very apathetic high schooler, right? I was a bad, cross country runner. I was a good friend, right? Like I was somebody that like my friends could really rely on, right? Like I knew those things about myself. I felt really good about it. I was somewhat religious then. I was starting to lose my religion at that time. I was very family oriented, right? Like those are the things about me. And then suddenly, again, you step on those yellow footprints. Well, like
I guess I remember
they don't care, right? They do not care, right? And that melting pot of everybody coming together and fusing all of those identities into just the drilling unit, right? It's intoxicating, right? Like it's like, oh my God, right? Like this is the thing. And now my answer, right, like it's actually, your initial answer to it is really interesting. And to my whole area of 2-Bit Ryan, what I blog about and what I write about and record on a lot, is this nature of just for people that are so plan-oriented. I am now very oriented around a plan, about being organized, right? And I realized at some point that I was getting perhaps a bit too focused on just the to-do list and being productive, right? Oh yeah, see, this is good. I wish this was a video podcast. Nick, can we get a camera in here?
Our social media.
This is great.
Our social media director definitely wants it to be a video
great.
podcast. Yeah.
But because what do you do with that, right? Because then you end up in sort of this negative spiral of saying, okay, well, if I don't get the things done that I aspired to get done, right? Like it can be this flip, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really interested in that aspect, right, of this three-dimensional nature of productivity. And I try and use this as well. For a while, I kind of fought this because, well, I have a full-time plus day job. I'm a father, right? I have all these things. Do I have time to really explore these other aspects? And I realized that, like, this is actually very much like who I am. I have sort of a positive energy towards really exploring these things, towards reading. The 4,000 Weeks thing, by the way, that's from a book by the same title by a guy named Oliver Burkeman, which I recommend you read. It's very, very, very good. But I think that this is the essence. Like, this is the good stuff. If I'm going to be better at helping build a nonprofit organization that is about how to successfully succeed in the transition, then I also need to be consistently asking myself, like, how am I operating? It's not like I transitioned, I got it, now I understand how to do it. Yeah, nailed it. Write the book, and then that's it, right? Hell no, right? Because my answer to what makes me me is changing all the time. Yeah.
Well, funny, the plan thing. And now full confession with Nancy. My husband and I did a weekend in D.C. 2 weekends ago, and he said, "What do you want to do? Do you want you want me to book us some tickets? Let's go see something at the Kennedy Center. Do you want me to make a reservation here?" And I kept saying, I don't know. And finally I said, you know what? I don't want a plan. No plan. We have no plan, no schedule, no agenda, no place to be, because I am so driven every day in order to be successful in my job.
Yeah.
Everything is schedule and plan driven.
Yes.
Or the magazine doesn't come out on time.
Yes.
So the break for me was to no.
So that explains why you were face down at DuPont Circle.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
But that is really important, right? Like understanding that aspect of yourself. You're doing that interrogation, realizing like, okay, like something's got to give, right? Or else you break.
Yeah. And I did not check emails all weekend long.
Oh, that's tough.
I could see the alerts come across because I'm not tech savvy enough to know how to turn off the damn alerts. But I could see the alerts, and I just went, not even going to look. Not going to look and even see what it's about.
Okay, so I'm going to give you like, it's worth figuring out how to turn off those alerts because notifications are like it's a
dopamine hit.
From an attention and time management, right? So like attention and time management again is one of these things. I came up with this sort of cheesy acronym. So we call it in our curriculum, it's the method to optimize attention and time. So a moat, right? And you sort of envision yourself as a castle, right? Bear with me for a second.
Okay, I like it.
Envision yourself as a castle, right? Every aspect of your identity, what makes you, right, is this castle, this medieval castle. And then you have everything on the other side of it and pretend you're sort of like under siege, right? There's all these things that want to be able to come in and distract you or that want to be able to sort of, so how do you build a moat, right? How do you build this sort of this separation, this method to optimize your attention and time that protects you, your castle, your identity from the outside world and every distraction? And so one of the like really simple things, I don't really believe in like hacks around productivity, but one of the simple things that has a really high value, high return, is turning off notifications, right?
I'm writing it down.
And so if you, because attention residue is a big thing, right? So if in the middle of this conversation, right, I have my phone out here, right, I probably should put it away because if I were to look, so I just got an email from somebody that says, okay, I got a text, this thing is done. We have active boot camps right now, so I could check on, all right, what's this issue at George? The attention residue for that, some part of my brain is thinking about that when it should be here, right? The thing that I blocked off my calendar to be here now. And even if we think 98% of people do not have the cognitive capacity to technically multitask, what we do is context switch really quickly.
Right.
And so every notification, right, just some part of your brain, some open loop, some part of your limited but unmeasurable cognitive capacity is thinking about that thing, right? Instead of being here now. And this conversation then is less rich, is less full, right, as a result of that. So turn off the notifications.
Good, man. That is. Yeah, I thought it was. My views on it was much more simple, in that it was when you hear that chime, you hear that beep, you get a dopamine.
You do.
Right?
You absolutely do. That's absolutely true too, right? And you can sort of like, then you especially with social media.
What is it?
All right, what's the
and especially
what's the
if you
next
have
thing?
them where you've itemized your notification chimes based off of whatever.
Oh my God!
it is. You're like, oh shit, that's my wife.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. You could totally change them.
Is that a thing? Okay.
Yeah, but you're right. The dopamine side, and so again, like if we have 4,000 weeks on this earth, right? If we're lucky, then if we are spending our time and we are constantly allowing ourselves to be distracted in an age that it is just, I mean, every company, right? Every app on your phone, every company that you subscribe to wants your attention, right? Like that's the thing. That's the business model, is to keep you engaging with their platform. And that's not just limited to social media, right? That's also Amazon, right? Like Amazon wants you to have every notification, right? Every single aspect of it. And so how do we really think successfully around who we are? What do we want to do? Are we somebody that wants to just sort of like have our attention diffused all over the place? Hell, think about news, right? Mm-hmm. If you have news alerts on, right? Like, man, is that the sort of thing that just like some part of your brain, right, is automatically there. And I'm not even just talking about LA or something. I'm talking about if you hear about a tsunami, right, that there's literally nothing that you can do, right? Maybe you'll be moved to donate, but some part of your brain is thinking about, oh my God, tsunami, that's awful, right? What is that? What's the value of that right now? Mm-hmm. So that intentionality, right? Like this is the thing that, as I have grown, right? As I think about like what makes me, right? Is somebody that is very, very interested in that analysis of identity and thinking about how do we intentionally use our time, particularly as it relates to the work I do, at those times of transition, right? The most one of the things that sort of drives me nuts, I understand why this is the case, but when people think about military service members, they think about, the 4 stars, right? Maybe they think about some senior enlisted leaders, right? But
they watched Full Metal Jacket.
Or they watched Full Metal Jacket, right?
Everybody's animal mother. Yeah.
The quintessential military experience, the vast majority of veterans did one enlistment and got out. Right? Mm-hmm. When we think about military support, when we think about like what do the troops need, like how do we support that sort of thing, the population we should be thinking about are the people that did one enlistment and got out. That is the vast majority of veterans, right? And so when we're optimizing transition services, when we're thinking about those things, we should be thinking about that population. And instead, we don't. We over-index on the things that are the people that are sort of the flashier stacks, right? And and I get that, right? Like for the magazine, right? Like it probably makes sense, right? To be able to have this sort of, there's an association with it. There's more storied history to it. But I think that we as a nation often forget that the vast majority of people that have served are in that category. Yeah, yeah. And veteranness is some part of their identity, right? So is it 2%? Is it 98%? I don't know, right? Some people want to associate not at all with the military, right? All right, let's see. I'm getting a call. Oh, it's USAA. See, I don't want to talk to USAA. It's an insurance claim. They're going to tell me it's denied. I do allow I allow very specific notifications on at different times during the year. So right now, because we have full-on boot camps happening, I allow calls at other times in my life. Like when I don't need to have my phone on for those things, I don't allow it because otherwise now I'm thinking about my USAA insurance claim. But that veteranness piece.
I have one too, by the way.
Yeah, I'm also USA.
All right, yeah. Good luck. Good luck to us all. But that is one of the things that I think is really, really interesting is how do we think about how much the military is a portion of our identity? And there's it's you can't measure it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's imperfect.
But it's also inescapable. Like even if you're trying to turn away from it, it is still that is your identity
exactly right.
You're turning away from.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I guess one thing I know on your point in sort of the seedbed of even the show, I know we're supposed to be talking about you, but
yeah, this is more fun.
We like talking about ourselves.
Who really wants to hear me prattle on and on? I got a quick story though.
Yes.
So when we were talking about the show, we had this the sort of the motto of the show was like stories matter, and I saw that coming out of the literary world, leaving AU. So it was very the pendulum swung. So I for those who don't know, I mean, American University is a very liberal university in Washington D.C. Unbelievable scholarship there, but they don't have. And they're very veteran friendly, very supportive. But at least among the student body and my cohort in particular, there wasn't a lot that people knew of veterans. I mean, myself and Will Schick were maybe like the only veterans that people had ever met in their lives. And so I got to see the literary world from a much different view. Yeah. The commandant's reading, like, while you're in service, your reading list, if you will, is very directive and very specific on the types of education that the military or the Marine Corps in particular wants you to be receiving. Yeah. So I step outside of that, go into this literary world that is very not that. Yep. And so then coming back into this thing, I got to see that, like, man, everything that's on the, and I'm using air quotes here, bookshelves are, like you said, it's the 4-star general, it's the task force commander, it's the SEAL guy who shot Osama bin Laden in the face. Yeah. It's all of these things, but there's so much more to what uniformed service members do that isn't the SEAL Team 6 commander. And we really wanted to lean into that space because for even the guy who just stood post and he looks and he goes, I didn't do shit in my time. Yeah. Like, bullshit. Yeah. What you did kept the rest of us, like, I was able to get sleep because I knew you guys were going to rotate out every 4 hours and you guys were going to shoot motherfuckers if they came over the wire, right? Yeah. So I could sleep well and then do my thing. Yeah. And it was so important. Yeah. All of these things. The guy who fixed our tray rat heaters. Yeah. Like, dude, I can't fucking eat cold food in the middle of Afghanistan in December. Yeah. It's not happening. So you help. Like, you were a massive part of my life. Yeah. Was your ability to fix that fucking tray rack.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this goes into the community side, right? Yeah. That you need everybody to be able to do that, right? I mean, there's a couple points of response to everything that you just shared there. I think one is we need people to be really clear about that, right? To be outspoken, because the military is so hierarchical, right? Just by design, right? Like, of course. But I remember this, right? Like, all right, yeah, you're in boot camp. Just wait till you go to, MCT. All right, you're gonna MCT. All right, yeah, right. And like, wait till you get to the field, right? You go to the field, and like, just wait till you deploy, right? Just wait till you deploy again, right? Just wait till you're on a team, right? Like, okay, all right. And then you get out, and the veteran community can be the same way. Like, all right, where'd you serve? What branch? What'd you do?
Coin check. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So one of the things, like, I am in my bio very deliberately, I describe myself as a non-combat Marine, right? And the reason I do that is because my identity, right, in terms of how I would think about myself when people would ask me when I was at Michigan, right? And I started to, talk to civilians, right? And I did really like build some strong relationships with people that didn't serve. I wanted to do that. I was very intentional about it. If I said, since 2010, right? If they said, all right, you're a veteran, right? I say, yeah. I say, all right, what branch? I say, Marine Corps. I said, where'd you go? I said, I went to Iraq a couple times. And if I just say nothing else, their assumption, exactly. I'm in the shit, right? I'm that guy, right?
Yeah.
So this sort of like, it's not like lying by omission, but it's this filling in the gaps, right? And we see this a lot in the veteran community. And I see this posturing, right? When I go meet this group of students at Georgetown that I'm going to meet this afternoon, right? So we have 15 students that are there, all enlisted service members or veterans. But 40% of the folks we serve at Warrior Scholar Project are separated veterans. Are active duty. But 50% are separated veterans, and then about 10% are Guard, Reserve, somewhere in that, right? So as long as you're enlisted and don't yet have an undergraduate degree, then we want to serve you, right? These are free academic boot camps hosted with these great institutions. That's the model. So this group that I'm going to meet has been together for about 3 days, right? And so what I would predict, as of Tuesday evening, is they will have bonded, but they're still kind of feeling each other out a little bit. There still is going to be some of that posturing, right? And so again, it's not just that. It starts with that deep identity work of what makes you you, but also then how are you projecting yourself in the world, right?
Yeah.
Like that intentionality, but also that authenticity. So now, for me, I've taken it upon myself to say I'm a non-combat veteran, right? I got into some interesting situations, right, when I was abroad. The vast majority of my time as an Arabic translator was with cans on like this, right? Me in a skiff, right, in a bunker doing stuff, and then sometimes I got to go with units and and go out and do some things, but we don't hear from that. And I'm not saying that everybody should describe themselves as non-combat veterans.
Right.
That didn't, but I do think that some of that gap filling, some of that hierarchical nature, because you want people, especially like if you didn't deploy, right? Well, you still served a really important purpose. Yeah. And here's one other thing, right? Like, why did you can go back to this award, right? Like, why was I genuinely really proud to do it? That education and civic engagement connection, right? Like that's the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Education to foster additional civic engagement, because everybody in the last 52 years that we've had an all-volunteer force raised the right hand to swear and uphold and defend the Constitution. They subjugated a portion of their freedom, of their liberty, to serve something bigger than themselves, right? Not knowing what they were really getting themselves into. Mm-hmm. And that matters. That matters no matter what you did in the military. The fact that you did that and that service, serving something higher and bigger than you, changes people, right? That is one of the biggest, sort of most widespread positive changes, is the value of serving something, subjugating, again, a portion of your opportunity to choose what you do, right? Again, that purpose. You wake up, you don't have time, right? Like, you do the thing, right? You have to show up and you do the thing. What you do with that afterwards, right? How do you channel, to your point, when you were in college? How do you take those lessons, those things that you learned, and add that perspective, how service changed you? How do you channel that into conversations in the college classroom such that you are adding value to the classmates that didn't serve, and you're humbling yourself to learn from other people that had different experiences, right? We have this underlying subtext conversation all the time with like these 18-year-olds, right? I hear this all the time, which is like, what do these 18-year-olds have to teach me about the world, right? And the answer is, if you listen a lot, right? Yeah. Because they didn't need the military on the record to get admitted to this school. So they figured out something at the high school level, right? Mm-hmm. And so like you have a lot to learn from these people, right? But you have to be able to engage. And again, back to community, it's a two-way street. That's that important piece of transition. Service changes you, great. Use higher education as a way to be able to build community, to build perspective, so that whatever comes out the other end, man, like that can be the good stuff. right? We need more enlisted. We need them in leadership positions and nonprofits. We need more, again, that quintessential enlisted, the 1 enlistment, 2 enlistments, 4 to 8 years, somewhere in there. We need more of them leading in corporations. We need more of them in government, right? Those are the sort of people that understand the quintessential military experience. And those are the sort of voices that, we as an organization and me personally, that I'm really committed to helping lift up.
I think that's so important. And I cut you off yet again. I know. I'm so sorry.
It's a pattern for the listeners. I'm watching everything here. We need to. There's something here, Vic.
I'm gonna get a buzzer.
But I do want to say though, and I think it's very important that we lean into. And I know we sort of said we're tongue in cheek a little bit though about the fact that you are so focused on the enlisted ranks, because I feel like there's so few.
Yeah.
You have your all-encompassing VSOs, obviously. And
right.
Not to disparage. They're all great. I want to encourage everybody to look up everything from, what you guys are doing at Warrior Scholar Project, PB Abate, American League, all of these things. Get involved in as many as you can. That being said, the fact that you're focused on the enlisted scholarship and getting enlisted members of service members into these spaces is very important, because I don't think that there are enough that are focused on this. Because generally saying, when you have like an all-encompassing, especially when you're talking about going into academia, when you have these all-encompassing VSOs, the ones that are most likely going to be drawn to it are the officer corps, because they already have a taste of it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And I think in a lot of ways, there's so many enlisted service members who maybe not explicitly are told, but just through society or through the way that the hierarchy of the military functions are kind of subconsciously being told you can't do that.
That's right.
Or that it's going to be very hard for you. So maybe look at a trade or something like that, which trades are great also.
But who's telling them that, right? It's the first sergeant who's still in. Right?
Yeah.
This is the thing,
or it's
right?
just the way the structure is sort of systematic.
Who's teaching TAP, right? It's the lowest bidding contractor, right?
Yeah. So I think it's important what you guys are doing, for sure. I think it's great.
And to the good segue. Well done.
Thank you.
You teed me up for this.
It's how it's rehearsals. Rehearsals.
So it's all scripted. Man.
What kind of feedback are you getting from those who have been through the program and are on the other side of their college experience?
Yeah, it works. I mean, it's exceptional feedback, right? So we collect a lot of information from our students because we're only as good as our data, right? So we're a 501c3. We are grant driven. We also have a number of individuals, high wealth individuals that believe in us. We have a little bit of corporate sponsorship. We have no government money, which has been actually helpful recently. And so we are really responsible and accountable to them to show our data, right? So it's not enough for us just to think we're doing a good job. If we want to keep that going, every year we have to raise about a little shy of $5 million to be able to keep this free for each one of the folks that goes through it. So we collect information at the entry point when somebody comes in, right? So anybody that's listening to this that's interested, if you are an enlisted veteran or if you know an enlisted veteran who does not yet have their undergraduate degree, who's interested in exploring what that looks like, go to warrior-scholar.org. When you apply, there's an apply button at the top right. All that you get access to initially is an interest form, which is like a 60-second form. What's your information? When can we contact you? Because what we've learned is that we don't just want to collect data from people that don't even really know who we are, right? So we used to collect information, right, just at that initial point. But we want to have a live time conversation between you and one of our outreach team members just to learn more about you. Where are you, right? Like, not only do you qualify, you're eligible for this, but what's your interest in higher education? All right, let us tell you about what we do and what we don't do, right? We're not a scholarship program. We don't give any scholarships. We're not a degree program, right? That's not the point of Warrior Scholar Project. We're about helping people make really informed choices, helping understand what college is actually like, so that then on the other end of that, you can make informed choices and you build the skills in humanities, STEM, or business to figure out, how do I actually excel there? Once somebody says, yes, I want to do that, we give them an application where we collect a lot of information about them, right? Like, we're, again, data driven. Where are you? Why are you trying to do this? What's your military experience like? Then when you go to a boot camp, so these students at Georgetown, they had to do a pre-course survey. So they arrive on Saturday, they had to do a pre-course survey, which is pretty extensive, right? How confident are you in the college environment? How do you see yourself as somebody who, could excel in this sort of environment? How do you assess your own skills, right? What are you apprehensive about? What sort of services do you currently use? A lot of questions. We ask a very similar set of questions, then they will get the same survey on Friday before they can leave campus, right? These are 1 week intensive academic boot camps. So we cram about 75 hours of work into 1 week.
I love it.
And that's part of what works, right? You throw it on the gauntlet, you say, hey, you're going to work your ass off, right? This is a residential program. You are going to eat, sleep, and drink Tocqueville, right? If you're in the humanities program, STEM's, different curriculum,
right.
Business is a different curriculum, but you're going to be supported throughout all of that. So we ask those same questions on the other end. And so we measure the growth over the course of that 1 week in terms of confidence, right? So how confident are you in your ability to actually be able to excel? So this is sort of the soft data, right? It's self-assessment, but it is important. Then every year we poll our alumni. We send out a series of surveys to say, okay, are you in school, right? How are you doing? What's your GPA?
That's awesome.
What are you studying? So what we've found over the years, Warrior Scholar Project has been around since 2012. I've been involved since 2013 and then came on board full-time in 2018. I mentioned went to law school, did a stint in corporate law, right? It's not really in resonance with my soul, right? Doing corporate law and corporate litigation.
My wife is a former corporate law litigator.
Yeah. I did it for a year and then I had an opportunity to come do this full-time. I was like, hell yeah, let's go. So we've been around for many years and we have a pretty shockingly static growth or alumni success rate of 90% of our alumni go on to complete their undergraduate degrees. The overall, that's contrasted. So 47% of enlisted veterans overall who start higher education complete their degrees. So the persistence rate is less than half. Fewer. So if you are more likely to not complete your degree as an enlisted service member than you are to complete it. But for us, 90% of our alumni go on to actually complete the degrees. Importantly, if you're part of that 10%, right? Remember what I said that at the end of a boot camp, we say, if you're not ready for college, don't go yet. Mm-hmm. If you're part of that 10% and you've made an intentional choice to postpone higher education or to pursue a trade or something like that, that's fantastic, right? The ones where we feel that we have actually really not succeeded is if somebody says, I'm not in school because I don't think I have what it takes, right? And then we say, all right, well, let's keep working with you. Let's figure out what's going on there, right? So that rate is really, really strong.
Man, that's so great. So you're not just like, and I hate to disparage Tap in Town because I think that there is.
I will.
Goodness
I'll take that.
Okay,
I'll take that heat.
But in much in the same way as anything as you experience transitioning out of uniform is that once you've completed the seminar, once you've completed the thing, halas, man, that we're done.
Oh, there you go. All right.
And the fact that you guys are continuing to do the follow-up stuff is pretty.
It matters.
Amazing. Yeah.
So fascinating stuff. I've reviewed. Last time I did it was a year and a half ago. I reviewed all of the curriculum that TAP has for higher education. It's actually really good. Like that's the thing. It's just like but if everybody really intentionally went through that curriculum, it's pretty damn good. But you have some systemic issues. So I talked to the person who oversees all of TAP's curriculum, and I said, well, how do you measure success? There's a firewall between the DoD and the VA, right? There's some initiatives now to try and be able to break that down a little bit, right? I'm supportive of that. But she is prohibited from collecting data as soon as they go through TAP because then they're in the domain of the VA. So she can't collect any short or long-term outcomes. So the curriculum from the DoD level, there is no follow-up survey, right? Maybe she can get it from some other sort of third-party source, right? But as an educator, to build a curriculum and then to not be able to assess whether it worked, it's like, well, okay, that's one systemic problem. Another is that, I think that commands are not incentivized to allow people to fully participate in TAP, right? If I was in charge of a unit, right, my mission, broadly speaking, is active warfighting, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I care about the follow-on potential of my unit, right? But it's actually to my detriment. The more time that people are taking to be able to do that is personnel time that I don't have. The Marine Corps hollowed out its skill bridge allowance, right? They did a 3-year pilot from 2021 to 2024, and they assessed, Marine Corps personnel manpower, right, assessed that they lost about 3,400 hours. 3,400 years worth of Marine Corps time.
Wow.
In a 3-year pilot because of skill bridge allowance.
No way.
3,400 years. And so if I'm the commandant, if I'm in charge of this stuff, I'm like, look, like I want to believe in people's transition potential, but I can't. Are you kidding me? I can't do that, right? So structurally, if we don't have some sort of actual transitional unit, right? Like there are some challenges with Wounded Warrior Battalions and those things, but they also do act as transitional units. If you are part of an active duty unit, I don't think that systemically, like that is the root cause here, right? That the incentive structure is just off for people to be able to fully embrace it. And so
I've been part of units that did lean into it, but you're assuming some risk for sure.
Right. Your promotion potential isn't going to be contingent on how people do once they leave.
Right. Well, no one else cares.
You have to personally care about it.
It's a personal
right?
thing.
So the incentive structure structurally is not there. That to me is the most that's the most damning piece of the current structure for TAP. So along the way, right, curriculum's good, but again, who's teaching it, right? So if you get some advice from first sergeant, right, who's still in, right, well, yeah, he got his degree from a for-profit institution and he got promoted to first sergeant, he's still in, right? Like I see, maybe first sergeant has some great advice, but like on that piece, I'm not so sure, right? And then you get some contractors, right, who are teaching this curriculum, but they didn't actually really pursue their own paths of higher education in a meaningful way. So what are they going to say? All right, yeah, here's the curriculum, right? Or even worse, you just go through a click-through course, right? Yeah, okay, sure, that's going to do it. So look, so part of it, I'm a critic of this, but I also want to be. Warrior Scholar Project as an organization wants to come alongside. We have a partnership with the VA. We're in our 4th year of a strong formal memorandum of agreement with the VA. They send out our information to people that sign up for the GI Bill, right? That's a good feeder for us, right? It's an optional thing, of course, to come to Warrior Scholar Project. So we want, as an independent nonprofit, to work with these institutions. We actually have an MOU with the Marine Corps, right? The Marine Corps has the Leadership Scholars Program, and so that's actually a really good example of what a branch of service is doing to be able to prepare people for higher education. But overall, right, we're not incorporated in TAP. No nonprofit is, right? They have that firewall there. So while we work with those institutions, we also, right, we realized that we needed to create our own solution to this. So it took about 3 years to plan this, but at the end of this year, we're going to launch the first on-demand version of our college success curriculum, and it's going to be on Coursera, right? So Coursera, the largest course provider, and so we worked with Yale, one of our flagship institutions, and we recorded in their digital education space a version of what occurs in the Warrior Scholar Project classroom. So specifically the college success curriculum, which is, again, how do you make informed choices? This uncomfortable but important question of what makes you you? How do you manage your attention and time as a student? How do you pick courses? What's the value of degree paths? How do you build community on college? So we did an on-demand version of that. Some of it's talking head dynamically, and then some of it is actually we filmed in real time a course that we were teaching students of this. So this is going to go live later this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
And our answer, right, this is free, right, for people to take a part of, is if TAP is going to continue to not hit the mark, which is, I hope it changes, but that's my operating assumption, then we as an organization want to have an on-demand free version of what, it's not going to be the same level of depth as what you get in a full boot camp, but that this just becomes known in the veteran community as the thing of, hey, if you're interested in higher education, do this course, right? Online, free. You can be deployed. You can be wherever you are. You don't need, unit permission or anything like that. Right. And you will be a more informed consumer of higher education as a result of it. So that's our other big bet that took years for us to really be able to get that right, because it matters. We really only get one bite at that apple, right? To get that right. And so being able to house that within Coursera, we think is going to be a powerful tool, because there's, over 100 million users there, right? And so that's been a long time running. So we're excited for it.
Man, that is exciting.
Yeah.
And that's really, it's great that you guys are doing that.
I love this program.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't win, you should have. But good thing you did. So that we didn't.
Yeah. We give our,
good. Yeah.
We give our stamp of approval now
the
that
plaque
you
can
won.
still happen. Yeah,
so,
this was actually a vetting for the plaque.
Proceed with year 2.
Oh, man.
You nailed it with year 1.
I'm sweating.
Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to come in.
I got to ask my trademark question.
But I do.
okay.
I want to just say, though, I do want to bring you back on, like, genuinely and sincerely, because I want to dive more into your views on sort of the absence of humanities and this idea that, like, you are only going to school to get this outcome. and how it sort of led us into this part where you have these professionals, quote unquote elites who really can't tell the difference between right and wrong right now.
Yeah.
And so I want to dive in and what your thoughts are and how that how that metastasizes in the undergrad community. So that I want to come.
Next time you're in town, let us know, and we'll.
Yeah. Let's set it. Yeah, okay. I come to DC pretty frequently, so as long now that I know the traffic patterns from you two about how to get back down to Quantico, but I would love that. Yeah, it matters.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So my trademark question: what was your best day in the Marine Corps?
So there's some answers to that question that, even though this is a candid environment, that sort of the first pass answers.
A best day.
A best day. This is interesting. So this is one of the only you did tell me beforehand that you're going to ask this. I love the fact that this is sort of a free flowing conversation. But I put some thought into this and just sort of I'm interested in what, as I was asking you two as well, like what the immediate answers are, like what pops into your head. And so one of the things that came to mind was we were getting, when I was out in Monterey, right? So when I was learning Arabic there, the Marine Corps detachment was sort of more focused on still being Marines as opposed to learning the language, in contrast to every other branch that was like language first, and then gotta love the Marine Corps for that. So a lot of PT, and of course that makes sense. And so one of the advantages of living in Monterey is it's this beautiful area, right? And so, but sometimes you would get particularly tough PT of having to do runs on the beach, right? And it's just never an enjoyable thing. And so we had this guy, Staff Sergeant Barry, who was in charge as our squad leader for a while, and so he was smoking us on the beach, right? And we were just getting, this guy is somebody who studied Arabic after, he did his real Marine Corps shit and deployed and all of that, right? So he wanted us to know what that sort of PT is like, and we're getting destroyed, and the sun starts coming up, and we're running up the hill, right, to get back there, and we're all sandy and we're all miserable, and one of my fellow Marines, one of my classmates just starts singing, I'm walking on sunshine, right? And so he just sort of like says this to himself, right, as the sun is rising. He's, I'm walking on sunshine, whoa. And then everybody just like gets that, right?
Nice.
But nobody knows the whole song.
Right.
So we're all just miserable, right? We're all sweaty, we're all sandy, right? We're all mad at Staff Sergeant Barry, all these things. But just like that moment of that turn of just like you embrace it, right? Like then suddenly it's like, okay, yeah, you know what? We're walking on sunshine, and just everybody shouting that as we're running through Monterey, miserable. It's just, to me, that does encapsulate, I think, a lot of what bonds people together, right? And I'll just on a sincere note, right? But Staff Sergeant Barry then deployed to Libya and was killed in action. Mm-hmm. And so I think that also part of the reason that sticks with me is whenever I think about Memorial Day, right? I think about the people that I know that were lost, either killed in service or came home and and then are no longer with us. Part of it is that unit aspect, and again, that community, but you have these people that sort of like I think about him in that moment and leading us on the beach, right? But then, he goes and he does this. And so I think that is this really important thing of, again, what it means to serve something bigger than yourself. There is that sacrifice, right? And so how do we carry that forward? How do we honor that, right? Again, what's the meaning of civic engagement and purpose? It's taking all of those experiences, the fun parts, the ridiculous parts, the incredibly hard parts, and turning that into something meaningful. And that is what our country desperately needs, is people to do that.
Man.
Great way to close out. Beautiful answer.
Shit. Yeah, it's so good. This was really, really fun and great and so informative. And I can't say enough about how much I love what you guys are doing with Warrior Scholar Project. So thank you again so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in today.
And congratulations again on the well-deserved award.
Thanks.
And I can't wait to have you back on.
Cool. I'll be here.
Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. You have heard the voices or contributions from Major Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Lichman, William Truding, and our guest. Ty Frazier is the editor, sound engineer, and technical producer. The Marine Corps Association is not an agency of the U.S. government. The opinions expressed in this episode are the personal views of the participants and do not reflect the official position of the United States Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, or the Marine Corps Association.